Hello again, my name is Emma and welcome to Faith Night Friday. Trying to get into the habit of saying it all the time, so trying to get, my lips to say it all the time. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right, so hi everybody. Okay, so I am, of course, studying out of the book where I am in the book of Judges, and I am studying out of the book which is called The Bible in 52 Weeks. Of course, I don't go exactly along with the weekly, the way it's set up. I just take my time and I go through it slowly, okay? And we are in week, let's see, we are finally in week, what was it, 14? No, we are in week 15 already, okay? So that's where we're at right now. Go sit down. And, okay. So again, I'm always trying to underline more or less what I've been reading, and then I'll go back and I'll reread it or ponder upon what I read, and I'll think about it and say, okay, can you leave him alone?
I'm not doing nothing.
Okay, Cersei, go, sit up. Okay, and I'll think about what I read, and then I'll say, okay, let me, try to see how I can see how this relates either in my life or around my life, or how it relates to the world, and so forth. Okay, so we were in, like I said, I started reading in Judges. Let me find it, because I ended up putting it in the wrong spot when I took the page, my little page out. Okay, if you see me looking back and forth, it's because I'm on YouTube here and I'm on Facebook over there. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I'm still trying to find an app where I can try to pronounce the words, because I have a hard time trying to pronounce the biblical names. So I'm trying to find, which I do have one, but I haven't had time. Hopefully this week, before I get into, or when I start getting into the next chapters, I'll write down the names, and then I'll go to the app and try to say them at least a few times over and over again, so I can say them right when I'm on here Friday nights. Okay, so I'm in Judges chapter 11, and we were reading about Jephthah, who was a brave soldier from Gilead, was the son of a prostitute, and his father had other sons by his wife, and when they grew up, they forced Jephthah to leave home, and they told him, "You will not inherit anything from our father. You are the son of another woman," which I didn't catch that the last time. Okay. And Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. There he attracted a group of worthless men, and they went around with him. So when I was reading this, Jephthah, he was a brave soldier, and his brothers forced him to leave home later. They led him back to lead the fight against the Amorites. So even though they had They didn't want nothing to do with him because apparently he was a son of another mother. They kind of like ran him out from the home. But later on, they come and they tell him, So it was sometime later the Ammonites went to war against Israel. When this happened, the leaders of Gilead went to bring Jephthah back from the land of Tob. They told him, "Come and lead us so that we can fight the Ammonites." But Jephthah answered, "You hated me so much that you forced me to leave my father's house. Why come to me now that you're in trouble?" And they said to Jephthah, "We are turning to you because we want you to go with us and fight the Ammonites and lead all the people of Gilead." Jephthah said to them, "If you take me back home to fight the Ammonites and the Lord gives me victory, I will be your ruler." And then they agreed. So then it happens that he went through this whole war, fighting back and forth, and he kept sending messages to the king of Ammon, and they were going back and forth, and at one point they were saying, "Well, why didn't you take the land back when you had a chance to take the land back, and why are you coming after me now?" And this went on for a while, and then finally when they were going back and forth sending each other messages, the king of Ammon paid no attention to this message from Jephthah. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah and went through Gilead and the Manasseh, and returned to Mizpah in Gilead and went to Ammon. Jephthah promised the Lord, "If he would give victory over the Ammonites, I will burn as an offering the first person that comes out of my house to meet me when I come back from the victory. I will offer that person to you as a sacrifice." So that's what he told the Lord when he was asking the Lord, to help him to win a victory over the fights that he was doing. And so after that happened, and they were still going on, there were great let me just read it. So that was still going on, and so Jephthah crossed the river to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave him victory. He struck them from Area to the area around Meneth, 20 cities in all, and as far as Abel Keramim, there was a great slaughter, and the Ammonites were defeated by Israel. Now this story was kind of sad to me, only because after he was asking God, the Lord to help him to have victory over this, and he did say, "Whoever meets me at the door out of my house, the first person who meets me, he was going to burn them," and so. But it just so happens that the day came when he went back home, and here comes a young lady dancing and playing the tambourine. She was, and she's coming out, she's dancing, coming out, and then Jephthah, falls down literally. Well, you have to think that he falls down on his knees, because he says she was his only child. When he saw her, he tore his clothes in sorrow and said, "Oh, my daughter, you are breaking my heart. Why must it be you that causes me pain? I have made a solemn promise to the Lord, and I cannot take it back." Can you imagine? like, you tell the Lord you're going to do this and you make a promise, and the first person that comes out of your house is your own flesh and blood. And it's like, no, no. So I can imagine the anguish and the grief that, you know, he had to have had at that moment. Like, even probably like regretting what he said, because not only was she, you know, coming out dancing and happy, playing tambourines, but that was his only child. And for him to have to kill his own flesh and blood, that had to be like the most devastating, you know, moment that he had to go through in his life. I mean, that is just like, wow. But there was a reason for that as well. So, you know, and then I kind of think about the daughter. Like, she was like really kind of brave with all this as well, because she said, you know, you made a promise, you know, do what the Lord told you to do. And she said, do this one thing. She said, she told him, if you have made a promise to the Lord, do what you said you would do to me, since the Lord has given you revenge on your enemies, the Ammonites. But she asked her father, do this one thing for me. Leave me alone for 2 months so that I can go with my friends to wander in the mountains and grieve that I must die a virgin. So, you know, even though she knew what was going to happen, she said, well, let me just let me get my head together and know what's going to happen, because yeah, this is it for me. I'm done, you know. And it just so happens that when she did come back, yeah, she was killed. So she and her friends went up into the mountains and grieved because she was going to die unmarried and childless. After 2 months, she came back to her father. He did what he had promised the Lord, and she died still a virgin. And then it just so happens, I guess until this day, or in those generations, there was an origin of a custom in Israel that the Israelite women would go out for 4 days every year to grieve for the daughter of Jephthah of Gilead. So it became almost like a tradition that every year for 4 days they would go out, you know, and remember what was done, you know, to his daughter. To me, I was like, wow, that hit me hard. I was like, wow, you know, I don't know what I would do if I were to have gone through that, but that would, you know, kill me too, because I know, no. But because of that, it just became, after her daughter, it just late in the future just became an annual event, something to remember, I guess, to remember what had happened for the victory that he had, you know, over the Ammonites. Okay, so in 12, not really much in 12, because they were just going, well, there was this one person that Jephthah had brought all the men together to Gilead together and fought the men of Ephraim and defeated them. And the Ephraimites had said, you Gileadites in Ephraim's and Manasseh, you are deserters from Ephraim. In order to keep the Ephraimites from escaping, the Gileadites captured the places where the Jordan could be crossed. When Ephraimites who was trying to escape would ask permission to cross, the men of Galilee would ask, are you an Ephraimite? If he said no, they would tell him to say Shebuleth, but he said Jebolith. Because he could not pronounce it correctly, then they would grab him and kill him there at one of the Jordan Rivers crossing. At that time, 42,000 of the Ephraimites were killed. So because he said it, because he pronounced the word wrong, which was the Sebulite, which meant determining if you belonged, and because he said it wrong, the whole Ephraimites suffered because he pronounced the word wrong. I was like, wow, that's something. Can you imagine? You didn't mean it. It just came out wrong, and because that happened, all these people died. So that was the only thing I got out of that one. I don't know. Learn how to say things. Learn how to say things the right way. Because back in that day, they were not forgiving. They were just totally not forgiving. In chapter 13, and I think we all know the story of the birth of Samson. But what I didn't know was, I didn't know that the reason his downfall of Samson was the same thing like David. David was a servant of the Lord, so was Samson. But they both, at one point just decided to do things their own way. So because they decided to do things their own way, God said, no, it doesn't work that way. You do it my way, not your way. And because of that, they both, not that they both failed, but they could have been well, especially in Samson's case, he could have been more greater. David was already great, but Samson could have fallen the same kind of like way. He could have been just as great, but he wasn't. So the story of Samson is the same thing. He was born to godly parents, and they raised him upright and everything like that. But as he grew older, he just started thinking of doing things like we do in this generation. You have parents who are Christians, and they go to church, but your children kind of like all of a sudden, even though they were brought up that way, they kind of just lean towards the worldly side of things, and they just really don't listen. And that's what happened here. That there was this a lion, and he gave a riddle to, let me see, he gave a riddle, and well, at first these parents were told they were going to have a great son. So an angel came down and told the mother of Samson that you were going to have a child. And they really weren't sure who the person came to told them that you were going to have a child. And I think at that point back then, she wasn't, I guess, really, like Mary wasn't able to really have children, but God was going to bless her to have a great child, which was going to be Samson. So they told, to make sure, the parents wanted to make sure that who was this person who said this. So they ended up saying, the Lord's angel answered, your wife must be sure to do everything that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine. She must not drink any wine or beer or eat any forbidden food. She must do everything that I have told her, not knowing that it was the Lord's angel. Manoah said to him, please do not go yet. Let us cook a young goat for you. But the angel said, if I do stay, I will not eat your food. But if you want to prepare it, burn it as an offering to the Lord. So Manoah replied, tell us your name, so we can honor you when your words come true. The angel asked, what do you want to know my name? It is a name of wonder. So Manoah took a young goat and the same grain and offered them on the rock of the rock altar to the Lord who works wonders. And while flames were going up from the altar, Manoah and his wife saw the Lord's angel go up towards heaven in the flames. So Manoah realized that the man had been the Lord's angel, and he and his wife threw themselves face downward on the ground. They never saw the angel again. Manoah said to his wife, "We are sure to die because we have seen God." But then the wife said, No, we're not, because we are. But his wife answered, "If the Lord had wanted to kill us, He would not have accepted our offerings. He would not have shown us all this, or told us such things at the time." That of giving birth to Samson and everything like that. But that must have been some kind of like wow scene, that you see this angel, and this angel just, they're bringing up all this goat and stuff, and in the flames, the angel just like goes into a flame. From the flame, he shoots up and goes up in the air. So that must have been some kind of, sight. But that's what I got from 13. And so Samson, his name meant sunny. Well, that's what his name meant. But Samson and the girl Timnah, and he ended up marrying a Philistine girl. And from 14, all I got was that he ended up saying this riddle to the girls, I guess, brothers or something. Let's see, and she said, where was it? Then he went to his mother and gave. Okay, so Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother as they were going through the vineyards there, and he heard a young lion roaring. Suddenly the power of the Lord made Samson strong, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as if it were a young goat. And but he did not tell his parents what he had done. Okay, so then he went and talked to the girl, and he liked her. A few days later, Samson went back to marry her. On the way, he left the road to look at the lion that he had killed, and he was surprised to find a swarm of bees and some honey inside the dead body. He scraped the honey out into his hands, and he ate it as he walked along. Then he went to his father and mother and gave them some. They ate it, but Samson did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the dead body of the lion. So then his father went to the girl's house, and Samson gave a banquet there. There was a custom among the young men. When the Philistines saw him, they sent 30 young men to stay with them. Samson said to them, "Let me tell you a riddle. I'll bet each one of you a piece of fine linen and a change of fine clothes that you can't tell me its meaning before the 7 days of the wedding feast are over. So tell us your riddle." They said, "Let's hear it," he said. Out of the eater came something to eat, and the strong came something sweet. 3 days later, they had still not figured out what the riddle meant. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Trick your husband into telling us what the riddle means. If you don't, we'll set fire to your house and burn you with it. The two invited us so that you could rob us, didn't you?" So Samson's wife went to him in tears and says, "You don't love me. You just hate me. You told my friends a riddle and you didn't tell me what it means." And he went on, "What could be sweeter than honey? What could be stronger than a lion?" And Samson replied, "If you haven't been plowing with my cow, you wouldn't know the answer." So then, let's see. So and he ended up defiling the parents because he ended up having the eating the honey, and it came from a lion. He shouldn't have eaten that. And then I guess that was it. So 15. So right now I'm going to be on 15. Furious, having his wife, goodness, and having. Okay, so that's what I got from those verses. So I'm going to be reading 15 tomorrow. So yeah, so guys, I could fish in the sea. So glad you caught me, and we will catch you tomorrow for Saturday night threads. Okay guys, like always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely comment. Bye.